Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Becerra de Meneses Spiritist Center. For those of you that are here for the first time or listening to us for the first time, we would like you to know that Becerra de Meneses is a nonprofit organization. And as such, for IRS purposes, we are a 501c3. What that means is that we function strictly through donations and volunteers. Nobody here gets any type of remuneration. And our mission is to study Spiritism and to promote the practice of spiritual and material charity. We welcome everybody who's here physically, spiritually, and through YouTube. And we ask you as such to please turn your cell phones off. If you would like information regarding our center, you can log into www.spiritist.com. You can send an email to info@spiritist.com, or you can call us at 305-477-4148. Nothing's happening. Okay, thank you. I'm ahead of myself. For those that do not know, we do transmit our gospels in English and Spanish live through YouTube. You can log on to www.youtube.com/Becerra Miami. And you can also log into that same place and see past gospels in English, Spanish, or Portuguese. Is this one? Okay. As far as we just finished saying about our center being 401c3, we function strictly through donations. We appreciate your donations. And we accept donations, monetary and also of help, because that's what permits our center to remain open. We also remind you that your material donations or financial donations are tax deductible at the end of the year. You will receive a receipt that you can use for your taxes on April 15 deadline. As far as our radio, it's radio.spiritist.com. It functions through podcast. You can log in and listen to English, Spanish, and Portuguese lectures. Today, we'd like to start by reading from the book Our Daily Bread by our dear Ch.XVII, Through the Spirit of Emmanuel. It's chapter 84, Raising Holy Lands. It is, and I was saying hands. Okay. Okay, hands. Hands, lands, same thing. I want men everywhere to lift up holy hands in prayer without anger or disputing. This is Jesus speaking through us through Paul at Timothy chapter 2, verse 8. In this part of the first epistle of Paul to Timothy, we receive the precious suggestion for service. Some students in the text only desire to see exhortation of praises. However, converted one from Damascus clarifies that we should raise holy hands in every place without anger or disputes. Paul, in that moment, was not referring to the placing of the hands that individuals preferred to do in some religious circles, where, due to the respectful artificiality of the situation, irritability or open disputes are not justifiable. The apostle mentions the honest edification of the individual that collaborates with the divine providence and fulfills his daily work, which is perceived in the most hidden regions of the world. Reading the suggestions, it is reasonable to recall that the individual, in his personal effort, invariably uses his hands in his daily work. If he is an administrator, he indicates the path to follow. If he participates in intellectual work, he uses a pen. If he works in the field, he will drive and handle agricultural equipment. Paul adds that those hands should be sanctified. From all of this, it can be conducted that many people move their arms in their everyday tasks. However, We must point out the importance of judging the purpose and content of each of these actions. If you wish to apply this reasoning to yourself, pay attention to see, before anything else, if your determination is free from destructive anger and without useless demands. In today's reflection about today's reading, in reference to Paul's words, Emmanuel mentions that Paul does not refer here to the laying of hands used in many religious practices, but rather to some students that only desire to see in the text words of exhortations to praise, not realizing that Paul clearly specifies the need to raise holy hands everywhere without anger or dispute. Administrators, intellectuals, agricultural workers, all of them use their hands according to their task. However, Emmanuel points out that it is convenient and important to be aware and to keep in mind the intent and purpose of our actions prior to executing a task. Are we paying attention to our decisions? Are these decisions free of destructive anger and useless demands? Let's remember this message and reflect on it throughout the week. And we ask that you join in prayer with us, please. Take a deep breath. Relax. Connect with the spiritual plane and those benevolent spirits that are here with us today that have already prepared the ambience so lovingly and so kind. Dear Lord, dear Father, dear Jesus, dear Dr. Becerra de Menezes, dear Mary, dear spiritual guides and mentors, and all those workers that came so lovingly to prepare our environment. We thank you graciously, as well as our guardian angels, our spiritual guides and mentors. And with profound gratitude, we ask that you permit us to start our Sunday morning 10 a.m. English Gospel. For those that have come in the spiritual body to join us, to assist us, to be assisted, or to study, we give a warm embrace and welcome. Also, dear Lord, we ask for those that are on the way, and for members of the caravan of love that are on their way to the Hope Center right now to bring cheer and joy in the form of greetings and material goods as we start the first day of 3 weeks of celebration of Mother's Day. We also ask you, dear Lord, to bless our dear worker, friend, and brother as he gives 2 Gospels today, Antonio Oliveira. Finally, dear Lord, we ask for spiritual cleansing of our home and the homes of all our loved ones. And we ask that you remain with us through Jesus today, tomorrow, and always. And all these things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. And we have the blessing that today we have our dear Antonio Oliveira, who's doing double time. He's going to do English Gospel now, and then he's going to do Gospel at 10:30, and he's going to do chapter 17, entitled Be Perfect. So
11:30 the next one.
He gets a little break in between.
Okay. Hi, good morning, everyone. This beautiful morning, sun, Florida, right? Have a spring. The summer is coming. Let me get this, the control of this, right? Okay, so this chapter is it's a chapter that the condensation of the basically of many chapters that you have, and we have like a Be Perfect is a kind of a goal that you, an objective that you have, take in consideration the stage of our spiritual knowledge that you have right now. There is a two main characteristic of perfection that you have in the chapter 17. The first one is love your enemies. What is a very straightforward characteristic. And this chapter says that we should love the people that persecute us. You should love the people that have different ideas than us. Okay. The second characteristic is be perfect as your celestial Father is perfect. So, of course, understand that by the fact that you are in a process of evolution, of perfection, this chapter says that those words must be understood in the sense of relative perfection. So this is the point. So relative perfection, you need to understand this. So, and then return. So what does this perfection consist of? So Jesus said, in love one's enemies, in doing good to those who hate us, in praying for those who persecute us. So in this way, he shows that the essence of perfection is charity in its most ample form, because it implies the practice of all the other virtues. So in reality, when you do charity, you don't discriminate people, even they think different of you, even they prior has persecuted you. Okay? So in that case, we are love our enemies, and we are exercise with called relative perfection. So this is 2 points that we need to understand first. So what's the characteristic of perfection? So after that, we come from some points in the chapters, and the explanation, what is a good person, what I'm going to tell you here. And then come the good spirit. And we have a parable here, and then you have the instruction from the spirit, que é ser the dirty, the virtue. Talk about those who are superior and those who are inferior, and the worldly person. And finally, least but not last, look after both body and spirit. So those those points we're gonna see in this morning. Okay. So we have here, the perfection is a process. No? So we start with simple and ignorant, then find vice, relationship, practicing virtue, moral improvement, and perfection. So what is the good person in that chapter? So the true good person is one who complies with the laws of justice, love, and charity in the highest degree of purity. If they examine their conscience concern their own actions, they will ask themselves if they have violated those laws, if they have practiced any evil, if they have done all the good that was possible, if they have voluntarily disregarded any occasion to be useful, if anyone has any complaint to make of them, and finally, if they have done to others everything that they would wish done to themselves. Okay, so basically it's treat the others as you'd like to be treated. So they deposit their faith in God, in His goodness, in His justice, in His wisdom. They know that without His permission, nothing can happen. So they submit themselves in all things to His will. So they have God as the guidance all time and ask God the permission to keep doing the goodness for the people. Okay. Good people have faith in the future. So it means good people are not negative. They also have faith in the future. They see the future with optimism. So which is the reason to put spiritual possession before those of a temporary nature. So the cycle of life, they understand that it's just a cycle. Because what is important is that that path here, right? The path that we are following. But you need to understand that process has cycles. So they know that all vicissitudes of life, all pain and all deceptions are trials or atonements, and accept them without murmuring. Without murmuring. Okay? The first impulse is always to think of others before themselves and to look after these interests before looking after their own. On the other hand, the selfish person always calculates the benefits and loss arise from any generous action. So the action of generosity should be done without those calculations, what is very complex, right? I'm read this here because I'm following the chapters to understand, to try to tell you what is the importance of each point that the chapter have here about the good person, and because this is the most important to understand the concept of this chapter. Let's move here. So vice of the soul. So we have selfishness, resentment, hatred, envy, vengeance, pride, intolerance, and power. Okay. So the good person is always good, humane, and benevolent with everyone without distinction as to race or creed, because they see all men and women as brothers and sisters. They respect our sincere conviction in others and never launch reprobation against those who think otherwise. So what is the greatest obstacle to progress? Pride and selfishness. I refer to moral progress. So they do not harbor rancor, hate, nor yet desire vengeance. Instead, they follow the example of Jesus by forgiving and forgetting all offense. Only remember the benefit received, because they know that we ourselves shall be forgiven only in as much as we are able to forgive others. Okay, so the fact that we also expect forgiveness in the same way we should give forgiveness to others. And so then it's totally opposite to selfishness, because selfishness is I want to be forgiven, but I'm not able to forgive in that case. Good people stir the all imperfection and work unceasingly to combat them with all their strength, so that tomorrow they will be able to say that they are just as little better than they were the day before. This is the path for evolution. So we always think and have in mind to be better than before we were. So opportunity to leave selfishness and pride behind. Sacrifice of self-interest, which is the most meritorious of all the virtues. All virtues are meritorious, for all of them are a sign of progress on the upward road. The highest of all virtues is that which takes the form of the widest and more disinterested kindness. And there is other part to say here. If then, by social order, a good person has been placed in a position of command over their fellow creatures, they treat them with kindness and benevolence, because before God, all men are equal. They use their authority to raise up the morale of these people and never to crush them with our pride. They avoid everything which might cause a subordinate position to be even more painful than necessary. Okay, so be kindness with the people that are under our command. And finally, a good person is always one who respects the rights of their fellow beings, as assured by the laws of nature, in the same way that they would wish they all to be respected. Okay. So those are principles in that chapter that the chapter take in consideration to explain what is a good person. So basically, the conclusion of that good person that treat others as you would like to be treated. So this is the point. I want to be loved, I need to love. I want to be respected, I need to respect. I want to be take in consideration, I need to be consider. I want to be listened, I need to listen other people. This is the point that is the conclusion about the good person that you can take this. Then come the good spiritist. This more to the spiritists at that point. Let's move here. So talk about the good person. We already saw, no fragmented. The good spiritist. True spiritists can be recognized by their moral transformation and the effort they make to overcome their bad instincts. So they say here, Spiritism, when truthfully understood and above all, when deeply and sincerely felt, leads to the results already expounded, which characterize the true Spiritist just as much as the true Christian. For they are one and the same. Spiritism does not institute any new morals. It only makes it easier for mankind to understand and practice Christ's morals by giving an unshakable and enlightened faith to those who are in doubt or who waver. So, meanwhile, many of those who believe in the fact of mediumistic manifestation do not comprehend the consequence nor the far-reaching moral effects, or if they do, then they do not apply them to themselves. To what is this attribute? Is it due to some failing in the clarity of the doctrine? No, because it does not contain any allegories or forms which could lead to false interpretations. Clarity is the very essence from which it gets its strength, because it touches man's intelligence directly. There is no mystery, and those who are initiate are not in possession of any secrets hiding from the people. So we'd say that the good spiritist is concerned to understand the concept of the spiritism and not look for mediunic manifestations at that point. They say here, it's indispensable then to possess an outstanding intelligence in order to understand those concepts. No. Inasmuch as there are people of notable capacities who do not understand, whereas there are many of ordinary intelligence, even young people who grasp the meaning of even the most delicate points with remarkable precision. So we return here. So they say that immoral people, material ties are still too strong for them to be able to release themselves from earthly things. A kind of mist with which they are surrounded does not allow them to see into the infinite future. This results in the fact of them not being able to break away from old tendencies or habits because they cannot see that there exists something better than what they already have. So this is very difficult in that case to break the bad instincts. So to understand the concept of the spiritism, in reality, we need first to understand the concept to be a good person. Okay? Without being a good person, it's going to be very difficult to be a good spiritist because it's a prerequisite in reality. And then, so those people that are not able to see into the infinite future, they're going to have the tendency to be linked with some bad habits that you can call vice, and we're going to be blind to see that part of the evolution that the Spiritism says. So the Spiritism is not, in this chapter, says that not the study of the phenomena, but the understanding of concept to evolve, to have evolution to perfection. Okay, now let's talk about moral dirty. Okay, say in the chapters that dirty is a moral obligation, firstly to ourselves and then to others. Dirty is a law of life encountered in the smallest details as well as in the most elevated acts. And now I wish to speak only of moral dirty and not of that dirty which refers to the profession. So this is about moral dirty. Within the order of sentiments, dirty is a very difficult one to fulfill because it finds itself in antagonism with the seduction of interest and of the heart. Its victories have no witness, and its failures serve no repression. Man's intimate duty is left to his free will, the pressure of man's conscience, this guardian of interior integrity, alerts and sustains him, but shows itself frequently impotent against the deception of passion. So the moral duty is it's something that's individual, and is linked of the capacity for us to break some vice that you have, some bad habits. This is the point that you're going to be, and they say here that is a fight that only us are observing. In that case, is a moral duty to see if you do bad or good. So they say, where does duty begin? Where does it end? Moral duty begins exactly at the point where the happiness or tranquility of our neighbors is threatened, and therefore terminates at the limit we would not wish to be passed in relation to ourselves. Okay. So God has created all men equal in relation to pain. But why some suffer more and why others suffer less? It's based on the understand of the cycle and understand of the path of evolution. So whether we be small or great, ignorant or educated, we all suffer for the same motives, so that each one may judge in clear consciousness the evil that can be done. With reference to goodness in its infinite variety of expression, the criterion is not the same. Equality in the face of pain is God's sublime providence. He decides that all of his children, being structured through their common experience, should not practice evil with the excuse of not knowing its effects. Okay. This is the base of the moral duty. So duty is a practical summary of all moral speculations. So we have this begins actually at the point where the happiness and tranquility of our neighbor is straightened. So we have the free will and respect all time, and we are judges by ourselves. Moral duty. And it goes here for superior and inferior spirits. This comes from the challenge of authority. So those who are superiors and those who are inferiors. So the chapter says authority just as much as fortune is delegated. We receive that authority, is delegated to us. And those who have received it will be required to give an account of what they have done with it. Do not believe that it has been given for the futile pleasure of command, nor even less as a right or property, as is falsely true by the majority of powerful people on earth thinks. So besides, God is constantly proving that it is neither the one nor the other, since he takes it away whenever it pleases him. If it was a privilege inherent to the person who exercises it, it would be inalienable. So authority never would be taken off. In the same way, fortune. However, no one can say that something belongs to them when it may be taken away without their consent. God confers authority with the title of mission or task as he sees fit, and takes it back in the same manner. So The challenge of authority is based on a responsibility, because the command is delegated to for us in the sense that with authority we need to treat people with fairness. The instrument of perfection. And then for the last part is come body and spirit. And the chapter comes with the question, does spiritual perfection depend on the mortification of the body? So in order to resolve these questions, I will base myself on elementary principle and begin by demonstrate the need to take care of the body. Take care of the body, which, according to the alternatives of health and sickness, has a very important influence upon the soul, because we must consider it to be a prisoner of the flesh. So the soul is prisoner of the flesh. So we need to take care of our body, be able to have more conditions to do our duties, our moral duties and professional duties, so that this prisoner can live, move itself, and even have an illusion of liberty. The body must be sound, of good disposition, and be vigorous. Let us then make a comparison. Let us suppose that both are in perfect condition. Have perfect body, perfect moral soul. What should be done to maintain the balance between their aptitudes and their necessities, which are so different, very different? So the necessity of the body and the necessity of the soul, the needs of the soul. In this case, two systems are confronting each other. That of the ascetic, who wish to bring down the body. So we have two systems. So let's go to the extreme. The ascetics, who wish to bring down the body, right? And that the material who wish to diminish the soul. Okay? Two forms of violence, each often almost as foolish as the other. So in that case, the chapter says that you need to keep a balance between our body and our soul. Okay. That's one part of the chapter here that is, I'm going to turn this here. One part of the chapter that says that we don't need, for us to exercise the development, the moral development, we need to be in contact with other human beings. We cannot just be praying and isolate ourselves, right? Because in that case, you are going to be in one island praying. The chapter compared that action as a kind of selfishness. So the reflection of St. Augustine about self-knowledge. At the close of each day, I examined my conscience, review all that I had done, and asked myself whether I had not failed in some duties. So some moral duties that I have learned before. And then the parable of the sower, of the seeds. So that parable of the sowers, that parable sower represents the various ways in which we may make use of the teaching from the New Testament. So there is so many people for whom these teachings are nothing more than dead words which can be compared to seeds which fall on a stony ground and produce no fruit at all. So we have here the stony ground, and here another one that produce the fruit. But what is the difference between this, so this is the bird, and that? Is the understanding of the concept, what's to be a good person, the moral duty, so those concepts, and the concept of evolution. So the evolution, so believe in the future and understand that bad and good moments are part of the short term. In the long term, we are all evolution. And base it in the concept of being a good person and understand what should be a good spiritist, that is understand the evolution process, and the moral duty. So inferior spirit, some attention, tribulation, bad influence, the good person. So then we turn again. This is the cycle, right? Pain, Christ, temptation, war. Those are the cycle, short-term cycle. And these are the evolution. And these are the path. So the road to perfection requires multiple lives. The reference is not someone else. So perfection, as Christ says, is only to be found in the practice of unlimited charity, since the duties of charity cover all social position from the most low to the most elevated. The person who lives in isolation will have no means to exercise charity. What I told, like, you're going to be in an island by itself and pray, I'm a good person, but I don't do anything to others. It's the same the person that study, has a lot of books, but does not share the knowledge with others. So, and we have here chart is the sense of perfection, but you know that story, right? You know that story?
Yeah.
He, years ago, when he was young, he shot her, tried to make a robbery, and years after they met each other. That's a very beautiful story. This is, I forgave the man who shot me, right? And I like friendship. The chapter also says we have 5 minutes, right? Yes? The chapter says about virtue. Virtue is the highest level. At its highest level is a combination of all those essential qualities which constitute a good person, namely to be good, charitable, hardworking, sober, and modest. This is the virtue that combine everything. Okay, so be perfect is the invitation of Jesus to assume the divine heritage of our growth in spiritual and in truth. So thanks a lot. Let's pray. Let's close the eyes. Let's make a deep breath. Thanks, Lord, for this opportunity again for us to be here in this Sunday morning and to be able to listen this important knowledge to be perfect, the chapter 17, and that knowledge be able to make us a little better and help us in our step-by-step path to our perfection. Thanks again for this opportunity, and I ask your permission to finalize our work this morning. Thanks a lot. Could be.